So what is up, DCTV? Shout out all my dreamers. So happy to have you back here. We are back with episode 2 of DCTV season 1. And what are we doing? Embracing the journey. This is what we're here to talk about today. And with none other than SZN Media itself, Stephen-Michael Thompson Jr. Okay, welcome, Stephen.
Thank you. I feel welcome.
We are so happy to have you here today. And most importantly, we're going to get nitty today. We're going to get nitty because our audience...
This is testimony service. We ain't come to play around. We ain't come to pump and prime each other. We're here to be real and honest.
So we want to give y'all the best value that we have. And honestly, for a lot of my entrepreneurs who have similar stories like myself, like Stephen, who has come in, going to school, working on their college education, working on their corporate career, but deep down in the heart, always knowing that they were entrepreneurs. And that's the journey itself. How do you get to the entrepreneurship and the success that we're looking at now and that we're looking for in the next few years, right? So quickly before we get in, because we were about to hop right in for you in this value, Stephen, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes. Hello, my name is Stephen-Michael Thompson Jr. I'm a proud native of Maryland. In 2020, I graduated from Morgan State University with a degree in computer science. We'll talk about that later. At heart, if I can describe myself in a sentence, I'm a digital content specialist. I use web design, photography, branding, graphic design, and other marketing strategies to be a storyteller from the church space, political space, nonprofits, and local businesses. Outside of that, I'm a servant, fully born and raised in the church. I currently serve as a media team director outside of my work roles. And of course, one fact about me, I'm a lover of crabs. I don't know why in 2023 everybody thinks they can eat crabs. As a Marylander, I feel offended that I go to stores now. I'm going to these jokes off today. I feel offended that I go to stores now and crabs are skyrocketing when in all reality, y'all don't even know how to open it. What are y'all doing? Y'all wasting. Y'all don't even have Old Bay season in y'all cabinet. Why is cooking reels everywhere? I don't even know how. But in all seriousness, I'm a lover of just all things creativity. I love what I do. That's one of my quotes, even on my website. And I just generally love bringing seasons to life and making an impact on everybody and everyone when I can.
Absolutely. And I want to say, with all that he's told you, I can honestly admit the number one thing in Stephen's life is God. It's God. He didn't say what I'm going to tell y'all. He is a servant. And he is a servant leader, seriously, to the full. Just working with Stephen, honestly, even meeting Stephen was a divine connection. So we're gonna hop into that and how that's happened and how
he's been good to us. I don't know about y'all. He's been good to me.
He's been so good, and that's what I'm saying. Honestly, as you guys know, DreamClouds and who we are, and what we encourage you all to do, it's your purpose. It's living out your purpose, fulfilling those passions that you have for you, and making a career out of it. And what I can honestly say is, ever since I met Stephen, he has been that prime example of taking his interests, taking his career, but not just doing it for himself, not just doing it for a career, but doing it as ministry, doing the Lord's work, doing it for people who need to be poured into in this season, right? So this is why I'm bringing him all to you guys today, so that you guys can really feel that passion, feel that ministry within him, and hopefully encourage you all to do what we're doing, which is pursue our purpose, right? So, with that being said,
here we go.
Without further ado, right? I do want to start off with this divine connection of how we even came to meet. So, a little story for the audience on Stephen and I. We actually, even though he's coming from Maryland, myself being born and raised in Jersey, ended up at the same corporate company when pursuing our career after college. And I would say my graduation year was 2018.
Yep.
Okay, perfect.
2020.
Okay, perfect. So we weren't too far off in getting into the company. And of course, now for disclosure and everything, we're not going to mention that company that we worked at, but we will get into just the things that we've done there. Myself for my supply chain career, himself within marketing. And honestly, they
don't know. Tech.
Oh,
yeah.
There we go.
Curveball. We're going to talk about that. We're going to break that down on today.
And I like that you've even said that. So I want you guys to even just notice before we get into the story, supply chain. And here I am with the business and career coaching and business consulting. And then yet having a corporate career in tech and then pursuing his business within marketing. So we're going to talk about that journey on how we even realize what it is that we truly should be doing, but also embracing what was happening in that season as corporate employees and entrepreneurs within the same time, right? And so I'm really letting him tell you guys the details, but I'm going to give my perspective on how I met Stephen and what's happened. Because I will say, while working at that company, I would have loved to see a lot more diversity, right? And someone who I was searching for the people of color in the office. I really was, especially with the company that I came from previously and how well they embrace Black culture. I was that person who was on LinkedIn. And when I seen,
not you saying the company. So here we go. Well, if they follow us on LinkedIn, they're going.
You know what?
Just keep it. It's okay. It's okay. Yeah, you did good for 2.5 minutes. You did okay. You did okay.
Okay, well, y'all know, a little blur perhaps that. But looking through the company emails and everything else that I was doing, and really once again looking for more people of color. Not to say that they weren't there, but I didn't have that connection and that network. I couldn't find them for myself, right? And so I was intentional about networking, reaching out to people, and I still did not meet Stephen my whole 2 years being with the company. Actually, amazing, and this is why we always promote you guys to have your LinkedIn page ready to go.
That's what's funny, because I interned there in 2019.
Did you?
Summer 2019, I interned there.
Were you in a club?
I had access.
Okay. See, that's what I'm saying. A lot of crossing paths, but yet never really crossing paths. And it's so funny that we as believers know timing is everything. So I don't question the fact of why didn't I meet him while being at the company and everything else. Timing is perfect. I actually met Stephen after quitting my corporate job, going on LinkedIn and saying, hold on, here's a person who worked at the same company I was working at, person of color, once again, which I was looking for my whole time. And most importantly, I noticed he was an entrepreneur. And I just instantly vibed out. I was like, you know what? I have to meet him. Sent my LinkedIn message. Hey, let's do a little meet and greet. Let's meet up in person.
What year was that?
Let's talk. So if I was gone already, 2021.
Early 2021.
Early 2021. Yes. Like early, I probably just left the company early because we had a lot to do. We had a lot of catching up to do before that first workshop.
Wasn't it late 2021?
Well, I wouldn't say mid. I shouldn't say early, but mid.
It was mid.
I was going to say definitely wasn't the end of the year, but I'm not going to say it was the beginning of the year either. It was definitely mid, just due to timing of when I left, right? So with that being said, ever since I have connected with Stephen and we've pushed forward, here we are, the amount of things that we have checked off our boxes, the amount of things that we have worked on together. I want you guys to know DCTV and a lot of what's going behind it. This man right here. Go on my Instagram page. You see the new logo. You see the rebranding and strategy.
I'm sorry, that thing was fire.
That logo, that's what I'm saying.
2022 work. That thing works. This is for the dreamers. That was low-key prophetic.
And you know what? I'm just going to put that out there. This is a little tag for those who are actually looking for someone as a marketing consultant for their business as well. If you guys are looking at the growth that DreamClouds has had just within the past year, truly, I have to give all my applause to Stephen-Michael, because he really was a great expertise in marketing, which is what I needed, right? And it took me to the next level. And most importantly, he was that support and that encouragement that I needed to know that I had. But it took to even get to that next level.
Look at your business, SZN Media. We're family.
We're family. And that's the thing about us. We instantly became family when connecting. And so without that, I don't know where DreamClouds would be today, but I can say for all the things that we have done so far, we are now approaching our second career coaching workshop that we're doing together. This is DreamClouds' third one, but Stephen has spoke at the last one and he's speaking at this year, right? Since then, you guys have heard about all the things that we're doing with DreamClouds and that SZN Media is contributing to, and there's a lot more projects to be on the lookout for. So with that being said, I'm going to be honest with you guys. You heard in our story, I did not connect with Stephen until after I was gone from corporate, and a little hint for you guys, he's no longer a corporate employee either. He has also taken that suit of going full-time entrepreneurship, freelancing, contracting. We're going to get into all the things that we're doing right now. But I want to hear just as much as you guys want to hear, how was your corporate career and how did you use that as an opportunity to get to building your business to where it is today?
So for context, because I got to get my bills paid, I'm still corporate.
Okay, there we go.
But not in tech. So growing on my SZN Media website, kind of the story of how I became a creative. Growing up in church, my grandfather always went to Staples. He was a pastor. Always went to Staples every Sunday to get programs. So there's something called typography where, and as a graphic designer, font, structure, kerning, it's literally a science between the fonts we see on flyers and the letters like header. Y'all know how y'all be on WordPress or Word, header 1, header 2, header 3. That's all typography. So growing up as a church baby, I used to always go to church conventions. I used to see the banners from last year and this year and say what was better. So I always had a keening for creativity.
Okay.
So going into high school, I joined SGA. I literally did that half of high school, majority college. We started Central High School in Capitol Heights, Maryland. We started Falcons SGA. It was already there, but we started the branding. So I did the logo. I did some Twitter cover. Now, this is 2014. Before Twitter blew up, before Photoshop became a requirement for everybody's flyers, I was literally used to make T-shirt designs, to teach myself graphic design on custom make. Hopped into Canva 2015. So where the tech kind of came in, growing, know in a black house, if you're young or somebody thinks you know something, you gotta set it up. So every single time my house got a new TV, new phone or tablet, my dad is like, "Hey, Mike, go set this up. Go set this up." Yep. Every time the cable will go up, my grandma, "Hey, Mikey, Pookie, come upstairs. Come pick this cable box." Every time the Wi-Fi will go up, I'm like, "Nah, Dad, I got it." Running downstairs to the basement, fighting the spider webs, touching it, and so I got introduced to technology. So in 2016, I had to make a decision. I said, "Okay, cool. I want to go underground with the Morgan State. Go Bears, the best HBCU in Maryland." But all seriousness, I had a decision to make. So I wanted to first study graphic design. Most Maryland as a state, amazing state, it's really leaning mostly towards the STEM, the medical, the political, because DC's right there. Right. The federal government has places everywhere in the DMV to work. Right. So when it comes to fine arts and more liberal arts, not the best state when it comes to institutions that focus directly on that. Okay. So I went to Morgan State University in 2016. I picked computer science. Okay. Around that time, something called Silicon Valley was booming. Run to California. Go work in STEM. So around 2010, as we went to high school at the same time. Right. Around 2010 onwards, it was a giant tech boom.
Absolutely.
Go to Amazon, go to Google, go learn how to code. So in 2016, at the same time, I started my career in tech. So throughout my time, I interned with the Army, the USDA in Washington, D.C., went to L'Oreal in 2019. So I was doing all the requirements. I did research. I was passing my classes, well, most of them. Passing my classes. I was doing internships, but every time I would go to a conference or it would be time for interview prep, there's something called a technical interview, where you would have to go on a whiteboard and write out code and answer technical questions. Till this day, outside of one, I never passed any of them. I felt like I was good enough. I felt I was confident. I felt like I fit the diversity because even in 2023, tech is still not diverse enough. But we're not here to talk about that, right? But it's just I always was. One day. We will. I was always hitting a wall.
Gotcha.
So going back to 2016, I also started doing more media. So I started doing sports journalism and writing about HBCU culture. In 2017, I got heavy back into graphic design. In 2018, I got into photography. In 2019, I started my business now, then called StephenSZN Media, SZN Media. So within that whole stretch of 2016 and 2020, I was at every single major Morgan event. So graduation, probates, parties, mostly sporting events. Even my church, I became a key member of my old church's media team. So I was really hitting all the requirements of media to the point where my whole school thought, "Oh yeah, you're a communications degree guy." But all my friends were like, "Yo, he's computer science." Right. So I would go into interviews with major tech companies. They would ask me, "Why are you applying? What are you doing here?" Right. Not even trying to be rude, just trying to fill my resume. Right. And I would go in the media space. People was like, "Why are you chasing this tech thing? Just stay with media." So the struggle I had outside of spiritual, we're going to talk about that as well, is number one, tech. When you think about tech, we always think about money. Yeah. When we think about media, especially when journalism still was a credible thing. Absolutely. But 5 years ago, pre-Trump, pre-election, journalism was like the top media job to have. Right. The struggle with journalism at that time was pay. Media unless you're a freelancer, media is kind of an industry where you're going to do a bunch of unpaid work for the sake of experience and paying your dues. And I didn't have time to. It was to the point where some of the media journalism teachers at my school, where I knew of, they just didn't really like me. So, you're not going to class for this. You're not paying your dues. So in all reality, I'm really getting blessed with internships in tech. I'm going to diversity conferences. I went to California. I toured the Amazon headquarters in California, Google, Netflix. I have friends now who work at top tier tech companies.
Right.
But on the flip end of media, I have friends who work at ESPN and BET
Yeah.
and Warner Brothers. So I'm like, okay, cool. How about having access to two amazing paths?
Absolutely.
And how do I juggle it? Even to the point my parents was like, Mike, what are you going to do? Are you going to do tech? Are you going to do media? So in 2020, I'm going to do both. But here's what's very key about 2020. The pandemic hit.
Yes.
So for context, for me, how the pandemic affected me, I had to take 2 summer classes that summer, but I was in my last full semester at Morgan State.
Okay.
The pandemic hit for me literally before my last week of midterms at Morgan. I went to New Orleans for a data analysis journalist conference.
Well, you had time because Atlanta took their time shutting down.
I was coming from New Orleans for a conference. It was a media conference, but with a dash of tech. So I remember being in the airport, people were joking, oh, this thing's not gonna be serious. I don't know if I should wear a mask. By the time I got back to Morgan a couple of days later, 2 days later, the whole campus closed.
Yes.
So all the SGA stuff I mentioned, all the leadership roles, everything shut down.
Yes.
So I had a decision to make. I was like, okay, Mike, it's time to go full in. So around that time, I rebranded to SZN Media. Mind you, I remember my mom called me. I had my bros from my old church. Shout out to Sammy and Malachi. I was like, hey, I need to do a photo shoot. I need to do a video shoot. I want to rebrand my business if we have time.
Right.
At that time, I did not know how much time we was going to have.
Right.
We almost had 2 years of time.
Right.
I remember we was literally downtown Baltimore shooting a video, doing a photo shoot. My mom was like, why are you not inside? What's going on? My dad was like, he was texting me because I was telling Baltimore, are you being safe? I was like, I'm being safe, and already I'm doing the photo shoot.
Right.
So around that time, God was like, okay, let me push you up a little bit to get you prepared for what's coming next. I don't know what's coming next because I had a pending move. Because when it came to the company that we just mentioned, I signed up a job offer to be a tech. I'm going to say, I'm not going to name the program.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say a tech trainee for 2 years. I signed that in September of 2019.
Okay.
So I told my whole family, I told the whole world, I even made a graphic. I wasn't humble enough to act. I made a whole graphic. I'm going to New York, New Jersey. I'm moving in the summer of 2020. So in March of 2020, I'm like, let me rebrand my business. But literally 4 or 5 months later, I had to move and start my career.
Right.
So literally at that same time, I moved. I think it was August 5th. It was a Saturday. Moved, started my career in tech, but also brought my business with me.
Okay.
We're gonna pause right there. So as you see, those 4 to 5 years, I got those with so many opportunities.
Right.
Opportunities for sports-wise, I was covered Division I sports. I covered games, journalistically or photography-wise at 9 different schools. I was going to tournaments. I was writing for 3 or 4 national sites within that span. As I mentioned, when it came to content at Morgan State, I wouldn't say I was the best, but I was the most known.
Right.
But in the tech space, I'm still getting internships.
Right.
Now, those internship checks in tech, as a low college student, talking about some money.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you I was here in New Jersey in 2019, just spending away. So you got to see, it was like, I'm getting blessed with so much, but I'm like, okay, cool. After a while,
right.
We all believe we can juggle. Oh, my schedule, I have time.
Right.
So kind of post 2020, I went to the company, and unfortunately, it was a company where we was not fully virtual. Some people started to go to the office. And since I was the youngest, and since my program was ran by HR, I had to go to the office.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I was sitting in an empty office in New York City for a year and a half, and also New Jersey as well, because I was rotating offices. Depressed. Not depressed because of mental, it's more of like everything that I worked for.
Right.
Everything that I expect to be in a bustling office. And I'm in Manhattan. And it's told him, I'm calling my mom at Shake Shack. She's like, hey, Mike, how you doing? I'm sad because there's nobody here.
Right.
When I have friends at home where they didn't move, I had friends where simultaneously, let me build this, let me focus on my dreams. And I'm focusing on a corporate protocol, but I would try to go home and I'm tired and try to still run my business.
Right.
So I think to not take up all your time, I think what happened was, and why I had to depart that company, I had to realize majority of stuff on my plate had to match my passion.
Absolutely.
And the calling on my life.
Absolutely.
The call in my life is this: I'm a digital storyteller. Everywhere I go, between high school, college, sports, church, I'm always a guy who's either pushing out great content or developing a system or a foundation for a story to be told. What was hurting me at that time, from mainly 2021 to 2022, I wasn't happy. Even to the point I would go to work, show up late, leave early. I would be signing up for stuff. Mind you, at that time at the company, I was doing diversity and inclusion. I was doing recruitment. I was interviewing potential interns. I was doing diversity and inclusion panels.
Right.
I remember my last volunteer day is a community service day where the whole company do community service. 2021, I led a whole entire team of 20 people in New York City, and a corporate exec, like a major marketing executive, he was a part of my team.
Right.
So I was getting all the visibility, but I've learned this about to get churchy. Not all good exposure, not all light is God's light.
Absolutely.
I'm not saying God was not there with me at that company because he was there.
Right.
But I think us as believers, we have to understand when it comes to purpose, we always pray, God, fill my cup, make sure everything I do is in purpose. Sometimes you got to be removed.
Yes.
And it hurts.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we live in a society through social media. Everybody wants to be seen looking the part.
Right.
But who's being the part?
Right.
And I think what happened with SZN Media at that time, and it showed in my invoices, it showed in my work. I'm going to be honest, halfway 2022 and late 2021, my business, my creativity was not the best. It was horrible because I was sad. I'm being drained by, I'm not saying a career path, because technically I'm still in tech. I'm a web designer for my business. It was more of like just the purpose within itself.
Right.
It was lacking. And I was praying like, I'm at the oh my God, why am I not getting the clientele?
Right.
Why am I not designing the best? Why am I so stressed? Why am I creating so many plans that I don't have? As I mentioned earlier on in this discussion, the wall.
Right.
The wall had to be broken down.
Right.
The chain, like Tasha Cobb said, the chains had to be broken.
Absolutely.
And I didn't know what. So last year I started, literally the first year, I had a dream about something I want God to do with my business within the next 2 to 3 years. And some of that stuff has already happened. I'm asking God, okay, you want all this stuff to happen. You're giving me these dreams. What had to be removed? So aside from social connections, I had to realize for me to really get this thing, I'm about to go full time into marketing.
Right.
I'm about to go full time into this pursuit of marketing, social media, just being full time creative.
Right.
It's hard juggling. I'm learning about tech, agile sprints, visibility, shareholders from 9 to 6. And from 6 onwards in the weekends, I'm trying to focus on fonts, colors, themes.
Right.
It's hard. So I think for me, I think the lesson here is, because we're talking about the journey. I think the journey to me is a process. I feel like true success is found within the process.
Yes. I
had to understand, because I like the word season. The crazy has to think about there's a season for everything, season to die, season to read, season to everything.
Yes.
I had to remind myself in 2022, how do I love the word season and I structure so much? But when this season is shifting and it's changing, I'm irritated.
That's a good question.
How am I irritated by the process? It doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
So to sum up what happened to me in 2022, so I left the company. Try to find another job in tech. I would be going to interviews with some companies, hitting the wall. I'm speaking well, but they would ask different questions. I just couldn't answer.
Right.
Even to a point last time, my parents were like, Mike, what's going on? What are you going to do? Some of my friends were Stephen. Like, it was to a point where I was literally sitting through the summer. I'm being honest, last summer I did not have a summer. Right. That process was so, because God was really shifting me. So, it's still in progress, but I think that wall is now down.
Right.
I feel like I can wake up in the morning. I was telling one of my friends last week, I feel like there's hope in the air.
Yes. Yes.
I think from 2021, 2022, there was no hope. There was progression. I think it was a to-do list. Now I feel when somebody emails me, Janell, when somebody calls me Janell, I feel like I'm fully capable and I have enough time to do what I'm doing. So in terms of the kind of the end of the testimony, right now I'm working 9 to 5 at a nonprofit as a marketing coordinator, where I pretty much, of course, I report to some people, but I have full creative control over marketing strategy, content, photography, videography, all of that. Right now, it's been 2 years since I've been doing this role, but my church, as I mentioned, I'm a media team director, and I had SZN Media. And I work for a couple politicians as well. Even to the point in 2022, I was working with some political elections, and all of them won.
Yes.
So to kind of see everything that I've mentioned, I wasn't playing. I don't take losses. I'm sorry. Would have been too personal for me. But I think the summary is this: I went from juggling something that was stressing me out, and I was doing it because of the money. I was doing it because it sounds like tech. To the point of every single thing that I do has to do something with storytelling, content, marketing, or impacting people. Right. And the story is still being written. I'll talk about it at the event. Make sure y'all get your tickets. I did Janell's event last year. I looked at myself, I was like, okay, majority of people on this panel, they're doing something that they really like to do, or they're fully into it. I felt like it was some burdens on me last year. The burden was like, listen, guys, I'm about to take you somewhere. Something's about to drop. You're gonna have to remove yourself from some things. And unfortunately, the tech career, the job, I had to walk away. And to be honest, I made the decision myself. My parents, my friends, like, see, what are you doing? I was like, I had to go for myself and realize, hey, SZN Media, and not just SZN Media. I like money. I like the contracts, the corporate. Some of that stuff I wanted.
Right.
I had to do, because if you talk to me if you meet me for the first time for 5 minutes,
right.
During that time I was going to mention media and marketing first before I mentioned tech. And I think what hurts our generation, due to the degree field or the stereotypes of the potential profits, we're always chasing something for the sake of looking good, and the status. It's like, are you happy?
Right.
It was so many young people, not just at that career fair, at that place, but just period in 2021 and 2020, where we were just in there like, all right, number one, life is short.
Right.
Unfortunately, I knew people who passed away due to COVID. I knew people who had to go back home. I knew people who literally, it ain't just me. I already have a couple friends last year, the year before, where they literally had to leave a job that they thought was going to be a good job to really walk in their purpose. It's hard. Yes. And I think what makes it harder, as believers, I feel like, I deeply believe if you serve heavy ministry, if you're just a believer, you don't have to go through some stuff. On paper, why would a company let a diversity candidate who did every community service effort, who helped mold some things, why would somebody walk away from that?
Right.
Why would somebody move away from home? I moved away from home. The pandemic, we're going to say the core pandemic, because we're still in it. The core pandemic lasted 2 years. Month 4, August, I was gone.
I know, in the very beginning.
I literally packed up my mom's Jeep at that time. I packed up the Jeep with all the stuff I had, and I went on a journey with myself. It was me and God.
Wow.
I always joke about when I get deep in prayer, when I face things, I always say, it's me, God, and my problems. And we're going to work it out.
That's good, right.
So it's kind of amazing to see in the last 2 years, remember how I've grown. Because when I moved, I was 22. I'm 25.
So in the past 3 years, yes.
I left.
So much has changed.
As a child, I thought I'm an adult now. I had to go through some stuff. So just to encourage somebody as we go into these questions, she's about to grill me. As we go into these questions, I think, when it comes to your purpose and calling, own your journey.
Yes.
What hurts people, especially in ministry, we always want to copy and paste the end result. But if you don't understand the process,
right.
I can talk about this all day. The process, the journey, the process. I tell myself, for me to get to the next level, I got to become obsessed with the process.
Right.
As a business owner, how's my user experience? How's my line of communication? Even when something like when it's time to get paid, how is that process?
Right.
When it's time to serve, how do I prepare? As Janell knows, when it comes to my clients, if they have a big launch coming up, or if it's for example, if it's a big marketing campaign, I truly understand. Some of my best and worst moments within those exams I just gave came through the preparation process.
Right.
Now, I'm like, it's been some days where I can just open up Photoshop, have at it. I can make a good crispy, but it's like some days I was saying, maybe I need to research first. Maybe I need to. So I think, to sum it up, I think I had to go through some stuff to get to where I am right now, but where God has me, because He ain't finished. Because this year going to be a good year. You just start.
Oh, and it's already good.
It's already good.
Already.
This is going to be good to me, but in all seriousness, I think the process.
Absolutely.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to explain what has happened in my life in the last year.
Right.
Even to the point, I think it really hit me around September, October. Once I just had no words from my parents about the situation, I'm like, I'm gonna have to just go through it.
Right.
And just go through it with victory and my head up. And I think one last point, I think the thing I had to learn the most, I had to stop beating myself up.
Right.
I think as a generation, social media era, copying, pasting, like I mentioned, it is so hard to focus just on ourselves.
Yes. Yes.
Because I'm getting on LinkedIn, seeing people at the company or become winning.
Yes.
I'm going to Instagram, everybody's winning. But in all reality, just because it's post, just because it's visible doesn't mean, first off, it came from God.
Right.
And number two, just because of it does not mean it was a great process for somebody. There's no such, as a believer, I feel there's no such thing as consistently winning because we're not perfect. If you're consistently, that means you're perfect. The only thing that's perfect is God.
There we go.
I think the one thing I love about God, we're going to turn this to church real quick. He puts us through situations to remind ourselves, hey, you ain't perfect. You ain't the guy. You ain't him 24/7. But there's a situation where you're going to realize that you always will need me in everything that you do.
Yes.
That's a part of the process. No matter what you believe in, if you feel like you could just go through a process by yourself with no humbleness, no temptation,
right.
no mistakes, no trip ups, that's not a process. I think that's a scrimmage. That's a simulation. It's a simulation. I think what I love about entrepreneurship, because we've both been entrepreneurs for a couple of years now. Right. I realized SZN Media turns 4 this year.
Ooh, congrats.
Thank you. But it's only year 4. I'm comparing myself to graphic designers. I'm awesome designer. They've been doing this 10. For example, Justin Foster, he's Tasha Cobb's graphic designer. He's been doing graphic design for 10 plus years. He went to school for it. So I'm trying to.
So he's like, I'm catching up still.
I'm trying to compare myself to people like they've been in the trenches. They had to go through some stuff. Right. So to sum it up, own your journey. Understand that you have to be obsessed with your process. And one last point, when you get through your process, don't forget about the stuff you went through.
Absolutely.
It's like a toy factory. We make a top selling toy, and it goes famous, and we forget the instructions how we got there.
Right.
So.
Right.
That's my story. I've heard it.
So many gems I'm gonna have to approach on there, but I don't even know where to start. But we are gonna start with this keyword because once he said it one time, it just kept continuing to ring in my mind. Yes, the process, if you guys are wondering, embracing the journey, what does that mean? But he put it in another way that I like. Be obsessed with the process, right? So that lesson that you mentioned, I do think is one of the most important lessons, why God is letting us go through this process in the first place, because we are going to need constant reminders. Every time we level up, it's a little humility check to remind yourselves, you know what? First of all, this comes with struggle, and you did not make it here by yourself. You made it here with God. You made it here with him, and without him, where would you be? So that's that reminder. And every time, once again, we start to tackle down these new levels, y'all know how it goes, new levels, new devils, because God is like, I'm here with you and I'm happy. But once again, we start to sometimes get in ourselves and we start feeling ourselves and we got this now. And we at the top now. God's like, okay, I'll need to remind you who it is. Once again, we talked and started this conversation talking about ministry, moving in purpose. The things that we do is not just for us and it's not just for the financial stability within the career, but once again, it's ministry. It's moving on the work of God. And so once again, constantly having to remember that anything we do, we are keeping God in the midst. But that was just a quick, because I really like that point. But back to this.
And one last point, though, I think was very critical about success. And you see it mostly in the music industry.
Right.
When somebody blows up. Somebody blows up and somebody trying to see their past posts to kind of check them, try to humble them.
Yeah.
Y'all understand when it comes to success, new levels, new devils. I'm a big fan of. For me, success is this. Before I get something, I have to go through something. But once I get to where I'm going to,
right.
I think God does a testing to realize, can you handle what's next?
Right, exactly.
I think one thing that's very unfortunate about, some young entrepreneurs, some people who we all visualize on social media. Sometimes we see things where we get success so quick. Number one, we don't know how to handle it.
Right.
We haven't been through something.
Right. And
we don't know what to take away. I'm a big fan of seasons. Clearly, it's literally in my LLC, the word season.
Right.
I feel like, when you're going to a newer season, sometimes God, I think he removes to replace.
Yes.
So that one, y'all remember God first
Change
job?
those words now. Next time when you God removed that in my life, I want you to say God replaced that in
y'all
my
know
life.
How we do career. We go from, y'all remember God first job.
Right.
Then the next job. I feel like, there's always periods where starts alpha, omega, start, finish.
Yes.
When we're asking God, hey, God, let me leave, let me find something new. My prayer is, okay, cool. If you're taking out, so let me finish this current chapter.
Right.
Before I move on, and let me take the lessons from this chapter and the benefits of this chapter and bring it with me.
Absolutely.
I'm not a big fan. Even when it comes to clientele, I've had clientele where they're telling me, hey, Stephen, I want to move on and just stop working. I want to make sure, even if somebody's about to close. So even with my company, my old company, I was literally there on the last day. I worked until 6:30. I was saying to myself, okay, this hurts. I want to go home and cry. I did cry that night. Let me make sure I finish this chapter in excellence.
Right.
and move on to what's next. I think sometimes it's very hurtful about success in the process. It's kind of like a new toy, new car, new something, whatever. We want the latest, but did you finish your work there? Because I've been in seasons where I thought I'm ready for next, and I get what's next. But guys, I'm gonna need you to go back and go ahead and spin that block and finish what I had for you first.
Yeah.
Was a part of the process. I want you to become obsessed with the process, but to complete the process.
Yes.
If God says 2 to 3 years, I think God in my former company, he said 3 years.
Right.
2019, 2022.
Right.
But he told me as I was going through that situation, even now, I've been finished the process.
Right. Right.
Success isn't the end. I look at success, it's kind of like the playoffs. I'm a big analogy. It's like the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Just because you made it to the championship doesn't mean you have the championship already. You have to go through something to finish the mission. Exactly. And where we fail as a community, we get something one time. Oh, we always want to be the first. Oh, I have this. Okay. I'm sorry. Oh, sometimes I sound like a hater. Okay, you had this.
A realist. We don't call it that.
I'm a realist.
Right.
I'm reality.
Right.
Oh, we had that's nice. What are we gonna do with it? What's next? Right. I was talking about okay. Hey, congrats on your launch. You have your brand. Okay. What's next? How are we gonna get this money? What's the ROI? What's the goals? I'm the type of person where success is.
We take the success and we be like, let's go. Next step.
I think success is really.
Let's do it.
The journey success is no such thing as just an infinite. Just okay. I did this one thing. It's over. No, it's not.
Right.
Even if it is a to-do list, I always bring myself to keep myself humble. Okay, cool. I knocked out this one thing. What did I learn? Right. Who did I impact? Was God glorified? And God, if I made a mistake tomorrow, forgive me, but how can I be better? I'm a type of person, even when it comes to ministry. We have revival, or we're doing something. Yeah. Okay, service is great, but what can we do better next week? What can we do better in the future? So to sum it up, become obsessed with your process, finish your process strongly, but as you go from season to season, always understand, what can I take from season to season? What can God remove? But what did I learn through the process?
Absolutely. And this is why we have calls and moments like these, because listening to your testimony, and we talked about this, going on LinkedIn or social media, this copy and paste, but always being able to look at others and say, well, if they're winning, and how we get this. And we're going to talk about mental health as well, because it was tapped on, and that's important. It's important. It's so important in this part of the journey, because sometimes we realize, even as you said, completing the process with that mental health, sometimes completing the process is just about not quitting. It's about just standing and standing strong. Y'all know the song, We Just Stand. And that's all it takes at times. And I can say for the both of us within this past year, and this past season that we've just been through, completing the process with at this point was, God, I gave you everything I have, and I'm here. And we don't always know what the next step is. We don't always know what we're going to do. We don't know how much longer we have in that season, but we're here, and we're going to keep standing until we see it done. But past that, if it weren't for people like Stephen, people like myself, people like the others who will come on DCTV that tell their testimony, you would all just be looking at the results and thinking, why not me? And thinking, how come this hasn't happened in my life? And this is where it comes down to embracing the journey, being obsessed with the process. You have to actually start valuing the things that you're going through, good and bad, right? That is what embracing the journey is. Value the opportunities and even the lack of opportunities, right? Start to understand that a lot of these closed doors were blessings, right? That a lot of these open doors that you might not have even wanted to take ended up being exactly what you needed to get you to where you are today. So it really is saying, I hope you're listening to his story and saying, you know what? I seen Stephen, and you seen all the elections he was working with, all the campaigns, and you seen all the work, and you're like, oh my gosh, how can someone be here contracted, freelancing, doing the things that they love and being happy? But now you can realize it wasn't that same joy through the process, right? And this is what we do. We try to encourage you guys through these stories to let it be known that you're, one, not alone, but two, this is what it goes through. This is how you get the success that you want. It's through the process. It's through the trials. It's through the tribulations, right? You have to go through it all to understand. And that, even in listening to your story, honestly, it's the trials that allow us to identify what is our purpose and what is it we should be doing in the first place. Notice the back and forth between the tech and the media and going here. And how many conferences you don't have to get the exact number.
I represented Morgan State. I've been to conferences in 4 different time zones: West Coast, East Coast, South, Midwest. We talk about Detroit, Charlotte, New York, Jersey, Maryland. California. So I think, I think when you said something that's very unique when it comes to I think it was very dangerous.
Right.
Especially with a lot of businesses we've seen pop up during the pandemic.
Right.
We see a lot of people. You're selling steps. If you do this, and this,
right,
you're going to get there.
Right.
No.
Right.
You're not thinking about socioeconomic equality. Don't tell somebody in the hood or somebody low income, if you do this, you're going to get here.
Right.
You don't never know. I think your journey with God.
Right.
God works on everybody differently. Just because somebody says if you jump 10 times you'll be rich does not mean it's going to happen to you.
Right.
So I think what I learned in the process, yes, I can lean on my friends and the people God puts around, but at the end of the day, it's still my journey.
Absolutely.
As we know scientifically, the way God has made us, no exact person has the same DNA.
Right.
No exact person has the same fingerprint.
So no exact person has the same journey. That's what we're getting at.
It started from Genesis. He's going to make everything different. But in all seriousness, I think what's very beautiful about the process is, yes, we've had similarities,
right,
but it's still certain things spiritually, just mentally, that it's just different between all of us. I knew last year how I got to my journey, prayer.
Absolutely.
I had to ask myself. I had to stay at home.
Right.
It was days where people were like, Stephen, I'm good, I'm home, I'm breathing, drinking water. I need to stay right. Let me just stay right here at his feet. Let me stay at his feet real quick. Yes. How I also got out of my journey, I just had to fall in love again with what I did. When I say I love what I do, I really love what I do. I love when Photoshop crashes. I love when Wix crashes. I love when my computer is hot. I love when that invoice is a little bit late. I think sometimes you have to just zone out from the world and from your mental sometimes and just get after it.
Absolutely.
But also, when I mentioned mental, I think when it comes to the piece of mental, I understand, to be honest with myself, what is wrong with me?
You reflect as you
I'm a reflector.
Right.
Every time, so fun fact, I'm very churchy. When I start dancing, usually if I shout, 10 minutes later, I'm about to be in somebody's corner crying. Because when the spirit hits me, when I go through life occurrences, even through business and just trial, right, I have to sit and bask in it. Right. And think about what just happened and what I'm going to do next. What hurts us as a community, we're always getting, but sometimes we need to sit down.
Right. The resting.
We need to rest.
Just as important as the
therapy matters.
Right.
Talking to your friends, man, I'm happy I have friends that knows my business and who will drag me up and down, make sure, because they want the best for me.
Absolutely.
If you have a friend group and all they tell you is yes, right, remove yourself.
Right. If
you have a friend group, unless you make mistakes, that always tells you no, remove yourself. You need some people who can praise you and protect you and guide you at the same time. Because I genuinely believe God puts people in your life, Janell, for a purpose to get you through certain seasons. So absolutely, I helped Janell in that season where she left. And ironically, when I made that decision, it was funny about this, man. When it happened, she ain't know. She just said to Steve, did you leave? I just feel in my spirit. I'm like, so in all seriousness, I'm rambling, but I think, I just stuck on the word process because I'm a process person. I give my people look at me. Okay, what's the next step? I think for real, own the process. Understand your process is unique.
Absolutely.
I think one of the most dangerous things about social media, we look at something. Now it's possible to look at something and take notes or to coach yourself or to measure yourself up, but all the time you got to understand when you turn off that phone, when you leave that area, when you leave that building, I still have to put in the work myself.
Right.
My grandfather, who was a bishop, he had a quote entitled "Impact." I must personally act. Nice. My favorite part of that word is personally. Right. It's not saying I act; it's I personally act. The key to success is, out of we talk about that all day. It has to be personal. I think when we're thinking about the word person, we're thinking about vendettas, we're thinking about, revenge, we think about, it just has to matter. Right. When things matter to me, I talk about it a lot. I develop my time about it. If it doesn't matter, I'm not going to talk about it. Right. Right. Even to the point, if I'm talking up with somebody, they ask about something, if I don't bring it up the first time, don't even. Right. So I think, when it comes to the mental health piece, you just, understand yourself. To anybody who's want to start a business or want to kind of take a journey and a jump, understand yourself through the process. Right. I'm very big on communication style. How are you? Are you introvert? Are you extrovert? How do you communicate with people? How do you operate? Also, how do you reflect?
Right.
How do you take time? I think for me, if I want to take time away and it's going to happen this Sunday, I'm going to a sporting event. I'm going to a wrestling event. I'm going to watch. My mom knows if I'm watching wrestling, if I'm watching college football, don't call me.
Stephen will work his behind off, but he is good for the. But Janell, I'd be like, hey Stephen, I got wrestling tonight, but I got you tomorrow morning. He's good, but it's necessary. It's mandatory, and that's why I'm happy that you're mentioning it because they might take our stories and think we just work all the time, which we are.
Now, do we work a lot?
Right. Which we are.
We work a lot.
But do you notice this, and you know what? You're mentioning this in this season now, but I bet you could probably promise them we didn't always have the time for that in these past seasons that you might have heard we were just going through in the moments of isolation, in the moments of being alone. We didn't have those moments where we got to just say, hey, I'm enjoying life. And honestly, I'll be real, because we weren't intentionally going out to make sure we set time aside for that is a large part of the reason as to why we even probably dwindled down, right? Depression, disappointment, anxiety, these aren't new to anyone, right? I'm not biased to anyone. I could say I've gone through it, but then I realized so does the rest of the world. Not to underplay it, but to understand that there are these common factors as to how we get there and why that's happened. And even just in going to what you're saying, and sorry to cut you off because you were on something, but I'm just listening, and it got to me as far as like, I do want to emphasize the importance of that moment of isolation, that moment of being alone. Now, Stephen has mentioned two important things, right? Listening to his story, you will realize how much alone time he has spent throughout his process, right? It was like, hey, I've moved from home, away from my family, away from my friends, away from my church, in the midst of a pandemic, so you ain't even have anywhere to go to meet new people. Thank God I hit him up on LinkedIn, right?
Thank God I knew some people in Jersey. But it was key about isolation. I'm going to be honest. It was a stretch. I didn't understand what God was doing, but it happened. It was a stretch from like September, October last year where, for no reason, it's 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm just up praying. God is so, when God talks to me, is either when I'm in the shower, when I'm driving, in the morning, or late at night after midnight.
Right.
So it was a stretch where I'm just praying. I'm just like walking around across my apartment, praying, downloading, writing on my whiteboard. I was like, God, why do you have me here? I think what gets me very emotional is when I hit my success, when I hit my client goals, always remember those nights were last year. I had to design, I had to create to pay the bills. Think about those times where it's 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, nobody's up, and I'm just going. I think one of my prayers, it gets me very caught up. God, see my heart. See the effort. Sometimes I make mistakes. I tell you, I hope you see my effort. I hope you know that I'm coming from a good.
And I feel you. I'll be the same way because it's hard.
I think what's in the process, I think, opening up, and even to even your friends and clientele, hey, so I'm in a rough season. At some point, I tell them, hey, there's a lot going on.
Right.
Sorry for the turnaround, but just know we're gonna get this right.
Right.
Just know. I remember when I first made her logo, we had to restart because I was suffering. Not because I was. It was when the suffering was almost over. But I'm the type of person where I want to be generally just there in the moment. Right. Even to the point. So when my mom and sister, I hosted Christmas this year. In the mornings, I was very irritable. Didn't understand why. Then I realized I made it a mission in the morning to just be quiet. Literally outside of some means, maybe my tea brewing. I'm a green tea fanatic. We're going to get this cup of tea in. Had about 3 this morning. Got real good to me in the morning. But I think, I start my mornings in quiet.
Yes.
No TV. It'd be to the point, if I'm working remote, my whole apartment is quiet for 4 hours. Right. Just soaking in just alone time and being quiet. Well, also, I understand in this last season, I told myself this year, I'm going to live. Said that on Christmas. It got real good. I'm going to live. When those periods of isolation is over, you have to come back and number one, tell your testimony, right? But show up for people. This is my show up year. Yes. I'll be honest. Last year, the amount of people who showed up for me, if my friend says, hey, I'm doing something, I got to show up. Because you were there for me when I was low. Right. I got to return the favor. So I think, when it comes to the mental, just take care of yourself. Isolation is key. Yes. It hurts. Some of the prayers I prayed, some of the tears I felt. Yes. Some of even me starting to question my own, am I crazy? Am I really crazy isolation, but also just having that safe space with people.
Right.
To the point when I call my friend Steve, they already know, Steven, you good? Let's talk.
Right.
Having those friends I already have friends pull up on me. Pull up to my church, pull up to my apartment.
Right.
Oh, you in Maryland? I need to see. We need to talk. So,
Right.
just somebody, I think when it comes to just my process, outside of being obsessed with the process and hitting those certain points, isolation,
yes,
having a safe space, and being honest with yourself. Sometimes you have to tell yourself, "I am wrong." Sometimes you have to tell yourself, "I messed up."
Right.
Just being fully honest. I think what hurts people in the corporate space and just other our Black community. I think sometimes we're so high and puffed it up. We're so high and lifted up.
Right.
But we're not honest with ourselves.
Yes,
we're not
true.
honest. Even in the ministry, sometimes just because you got the whole church shouting, if you're not living right, if you're not dedicated, if you're not, just because we see one shining diamond, just because something shines doesn't mean it's real.
There you go. And that you hit on it exactly how I wanted to, because it is mandatory. It's that growth that happens, that takes place. But that's why it's so important. And I love that you dedicate each and every day, because then this sometimes can probably mitigate how long you got to be in your isolation season sometimes, when you are intentional about already isolating yourself to spend time with God. That's the point I was getting at in this isolation. As he was mentioning before, you've heard it said different times. So now I'm hoping, however he might have said it, you picked up on it, whether it was having to say I had to be isolated, spend time by myself, or whether it was that God has to remove and replace things in my life. These are the signs of letting you know, one, when seasons are changing in your life. We're going to keep mentioning those seasons, right? When you start to realize those seasons changing, but it's really getting into, God is like, if I have to remove some things from you, and if I have to even let you see just a little bit of life without me, where there's no, I need you to come back to me. And then that's where it comes down to. You want to get to a certain place where these results are, and God is like, but you know what? First thing first, right? Come to me. I talked about in a post I just put up yesterday, right? And it was talking about obtaining wealth. And instantly we are already finances. What are we going to do? How are we going to get there? What's happening, right? And I want y'all to realize that we really did not talk about money in this conversation. We talked about relationships with yourself.
Passion over profit.
There you go.
If there's no passion, you will profit, but you won't profitize your maximum potential.
There you go. So you have to value that passion, whether it's the passion and, like you said, take it personal, let it matter, whether it's the passion and what it is you're doing, whatever your purpose is, whatever your ministry is in this world, the passion for people because of who you're pouring into. So back to that value of relationships, passion for yourself, because we talked about mental health, we talked about isolation. And what we realize is we have to be comfortable and confident and love ourselves, or we really can't get anywhere. And then I'm going to top it with the most important, your relationship with God. So when you're thinking about this, when you're thinking about your journey, when you're thinking about the process you're going through, think about how intentional you are in pouring into not just the financial parts of your life, but once again, the passion, the relationships. Take it serious. This is why love is the first core value of DreamClouds, because what's the purpose? If it's not for love, guys, seriously, I mean, we're here today because of love.
What's so key about that is this. My prayer is always, God, may I never lose the pursuit of you through the success. You know, we're both churchy.
Yeah.
Even when I used to do D&I then.
That's why this became a whole sermon. Y'all have to.
Y'all still here. That's just revival. Come on and lift your hands. All jokes aside, every time I do a speaking engagement, I think it's a kingdom assignment.
Absolutely.
It's not a kingdom assignment to preach. It's number one. I don't care if it's just a straight non-church or it is a church environment.
Right.
May people see God's passion and His favor on me and the light that I can get out. I tell myself, even as I'm going to her next week, I'm still praying about what I'm going to say. May every client call, may every conversation show the light or a lesson or a principle that you've put into me that got me to this moment.
Yes.
I always pray. May I never lose sight of the moment. And I'm great. I know we're both good at what we do. I have a quote, and when I say I'm good at what I do, but I understand it's because of God. And I understand every single time I get a new client, a new opportunity, even when Janell texted me, I knew I was doing her flyer. I knew it. But I was so grateful for her because she didn't have to text me. She could have did it herself. She's in Canva. So I think, what's key about, as you're saying, just as you're capping off, understanding what you're passionate about. Here's the thing: if you're passionate about multiple things, get after it.
Hello.
If you got two brands, you got multiple brands that has nothing to do with you, be passionate. I think I operate outside of God and I operate with passion.
Right.
If I don't feel passion, it's been some clients I have to let go. If I don't feel excited, if it doesn't click, for example, if I did not believe about DreamClouds, I would not be here.
Right.
I want everything to be aligned in purpose. I want everything to be passionate.
Right.
But I think I came to this conclusion on today. Wouldn't be here without God. I would not be here without God. But it's also, what was my 2022 lesson? If I give you all a lesson out of many that we've been given.
Right.
He places a certain level of community in your life. Do not avoid the community. This is why I'm very big on serving. This is why I'm very big on, if my friend is doing something, I don't care. Hey, I got a 2-cent promotion. I'm yelling in your phone. I'm a hyper. I'm a marketer. I'm doing this. I'm a hyper. I will hype you. I will dance with you.
Yep.
I will pull up. I'm very big on, hey, God put people in my life. Let me show up.
Right.
Because everybody goes through something. And in certain seasons, you need to lean on certain people and vice versa. So if I say, hey, I want to operate in God, God, may I never forget you. So just because I'm getting my invoices, I'm paying my bills, and my life is good. If my friend is going through something, if I need to go pray, if I need to just be a listening ear, I can't avoid that assignment.
Right.
I can't avoid it. I think the key to success, we always talk about network, but also everybody has a network. Everyone's connected to somebody, but it's also, what are you doing with it? I'm a what are you doing type of person. Just because I had food in the kitchen, what am I doing with it?
Right.
Just because I'm sitting in church, what am I doing? Just because I have an LLC, what are we doing?
Right.
So I think for me, to close up this episode, what's key to the journey for me is becoming obsessed with the process, never losing sight of where I used to be and where God has me in the future, but also understanding it's about souls, it's about impact.
Yes.
I want to make sure when somebody mentions the name Stephen-Michael with the hyphen, that's my first name, that they think about the passion and impact. So one of my pastor clients, he said, when I told you you're doing, we did a regional church conference. Mm-hmm. I walked 7 miles that day. People was like, yeah, Mike, when you get real intense. I'm like, yeah, because it gets good to me. It's real. Yes. It's important to me. I want excellence, I want success. I think finally, always understand that at the end of the day, choose life. Mental health, depression, suicide is rampant. I'm a firm believer. If I wake up in the morning and God gives me another day, He has something for me that day or in the future to get after. I'm gonna get after. Even if I do nothing that day, I'm still choosing life. I'm choosing to breathe. I'm choosing to laugh. So that is all that I have, because I can't pour everything because we have the event next week. But from a general perspective, I appreciate Janell. I appreciate like she mentioned, I moved away from home in the middle of the pandemic. I left the company with really just, I'm not gonna say no plan. I had a plan, but it's like God had to open up those steps.
Oh yeah.
And if you're kind of, for real this time, as I've really, really finished, you're struggling, how do I take that leap? How do I take that next journey? Just jump.
Yes.
God will not put you on a level or give you the opportunity to jump without some type of tendency plan or some type of cushion to help you. So
He is the cushion at the end of it, right? And so, all in all, God knows, because I'm not going to make one more comments, because I'm telling you, we don't have y'all here.
It's getting real good.
All night.
We're about to do a part 2 revival. Let's go.
Honestly, y'all might have to see a part 2 coming from us on this one, because this was good. And I'm telling you, if you guys want to hear more before that part 2 comes, I highly encourage you to get your tickets to Love Vision Pursuit 3. Look at both of us, right? Coming up January 21st, okay? But as we close out, honestly, Stephen, I just want to thank you once again. I mean, this was absolutely amazing. Like, it got me excited just listening to it again. I mean, I was listening to his story, running my story back, and just honestly remembering how good God is.
When you think about the goodness.
See, that's what I'm saying. And we finish each other's sentences, so we don't have to stop, because we be here with it. And before I could even, he's already on it. When you think about the goodness, right? And that's what
my soul cry. Just keep going. Don't worry about it. Just keep going.
And so here we are, right? And that's what we really are letting you guys know just through these stories. And so before we head out, Stephen, please let the people know how they can get in contact with you. What are your handles? Where can they find you? And if they need you, let them know what you help them with. What kind of services you got going on?
If you want to be have your season brought to life or revive back to life of SZN Media Creative Solutions, you can go to SZNmedia.com. I got the special .co to book today. As of 2022, I offer graphic design, branding, web design, and consulting. So you want to hear me talk about your brand and have the same conversation with you, consulting, that's my #1 service this year. You can follow me at SZN_world on Instagram. If you're churchy or just want to see me see my family, follow me on Facebook at Stephen-Michael Thompson Jr. I'm barely on the app like I used to, but if you want to stay connected, if you want somebody to share your comments, follow me on LinkedIn at Stephen-Michael Thompson Jr. And of course, as I mentioned, find me at SZNmedia.co. You want to see me talk about wrestling and sports, go to Twitter, SZN_CEO. But in all seriousness, that's how you be
What happens if they want to see those meals you be cooking? Where should they follow you?
I barely be cooking.
No? All right, guys.
Season
another
World.
comment for another time.
Season World.
Because he is.
Season World.
He be chefing.
When you just grow up around grandmas and we grew up around grandmas and all you do was watch the food that we're trying to grow up. What do you expect to happen? You end up cooking.
Okay, because he acting like he's just making big chicken. I'm gonna let y'all find his handles so y'all can see what he's making. I'm not even gonna talk about his Christmas menu. Nope, not gonna do it.
I do own like a whole slow cooker. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, he does.
Forget an air fryer. I need that. I'm real with it.
So before y'all get hungry, we are gonna let y'all go. Okay, so once again, definitely make sure you take the time to follow Stephen on all the platforms he's just mentioned. Definitely for my entrepreneurs. This is important. This is a great connection to have. So I highly encourage you to stay in touch. And of course, not just with SZN, but with DreamClouds. So if this is your first episode, follow.
She's my client too. So this is double love.
This is double love.
You better follow her.
Y'all gonna see the best of the best. The best of me and the best of him.
I bet you at the event, y'all better go to YouTube. Where you at? Facebook, Instagram, the website.
Follow it. So take your time, whatever handle you use, DreamClouds Enterprise, search it up, follow us, connect with us. I'm on LinkedIn, Janell Suttle. Of course, take the time as you are watching this video to subscribe so that you do not miss the next episode. And until the next time, this is for the dreamers. We will talk to y'all later.
Can we talk about how we made the owl to fly before we end?
Yes. No, I'm not going to say we.
No, it was we because we had to agree in the spirit. So
you definitely had to agree
how we came up with this is the dreamers. I think I gave you a logo, and it was a couple of days when you was talking about, and I was literally walking out. I was texting, "This is for the dreamers." Boom. Yeah. That's how it happened. So if you see, this is for the dreamers. It just came.
I kid you not. He sent my logo. Well, first of all, I fell in love. It was everything about me that I needed, and just everything. And I was like, it was exactly where the business was going. But all it took was that text hashtag. This is for the dreamers. And at first, I was like, that's a good caption. And as the spirit started to,
it got good.
Now we over here texting each other like this, like,
because
is this our campaign?
If you're not a dreamer, you might not understand. Okay, bye, y'all. Bye.
Right, bye. We out. Till next time.